10:06, we're going to start the meeting. The Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte and the governing body of all other special assessments and taxing districts for which said board so acts is now meeting in a regular session. Only those items that indicate a specific time will be heard at the assigned time. All other items may be taken out of sequence to accommodate the public and staff availability. Supervisor McClure, will you lead us in the pledge?
Certainly. Welcome. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and the board is not done with closed session, so we'll be meeting in closed session after the meeting as well. Are there any new employees to be introduced?
I believe there is.
Is mic on, Tony?
It is on. Okay. I'm very pleased to announce that we have hired a new environmental health specialist. This is Hua Moa. He comes to us from the Lathrop, Stockton area. He has a bachelor's degree in environmental health science from Fresno State and a master's degree in public administration from CSU Chico. We found in the 1 week that we've had him that he's going to be a great asset for our department and for our county.
Cool, welcome.
Welcome.
Want to say anything on that?
Okay, hi, I'd just like to thank you guys for having me here. It's a pleasure to meet every one of you, and I just want to just work here and just hopefully learn new things, and hoping looking for a bright future here with the county.
All right. Welcome to Del Norte County.
Welcome. And we don't get quite as much rain as the Stockton area, but.
And you're ready? Are you ready for the speech every week, every board meeting?
Was that?
No, I'm just kidding. Okay, Council, are there any approval actions from closed session? Oh, we have one more. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I wanted Heidi to go first. This is Emily Castleman, and Emily is our new Deputy Public Guardian Conservator. And we're very pleased to have her, and she's via Mariposa County and Trinidad, so we're really glad to have her here. You want to say a few words? I know she couldn't wait to do some public speaking.
Good morning. It is a pleasure to work for Del Norte County. I come with a lot of experience from Mariposa County. I've worked there for 10 years. I'm very excited about serving our community, and I look forward to working with you.
Great.
Thanks.
Welcome. Okay. Any other new employees? Okay, seeing no other introductions, any reportable actions from closed session?
There's nothing to report at this time, though there may be something after the rest of the closed session to be continued after
Okay.
the meeting.
Okay, at this point, are there any deletions, corrections, or additions from board members to the agenda at this time? In order to add an item to the agenda, the matter must have come to the attention of the county subsequent to the posting of the agenda, and the matter requires action before the next regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Do we have any other items where we... Okay. Okay, at this point, we will go into, we'll now hear brief reports from and announcements from board members related to programs, projects, travels, and committees. Let's start with Supervisor Finnegan.
Sure. A couple of meetings. First up was had a Regional Council of Rural Counties meeting in Sacramento. And some of the topics that we had to discuss there, number one was implementation of the Affordable Care Act and how it would be implemented with the rural counties, focusing on that one size doesn't fit all, that there's going to be some issues that deal with rural counties that wouldn't necessarily be dealt with in suburban counties, some counties that have hospitals, some that don't. We're a CMSP county, and how they would be affected. We did have a presentation by Lee Kemper, who's the Director of Policy and Planning for the CMSP Board, gave a great presentation and let us, basically what's happening is the governor wants to keep the first 3 years of money rather than passing them through to the counties, realizes a savings for the indigent care than going to being picked up by Medi-Cal, Medicaid. There is going to be some savings, but there's a case to be made that not all of that was indigent care that was handled, and I'm trying not to bore you here, but with the 1991 realignment cases. Anyway, there's severe negotiations. It's all about the money. When the governor talks about bringing billions of dollars down from the federal government, and he sends his finance director to do the negotiations rather than his social service or mental health director, it's not about the services, it's about the money. And how does he score that in the budget? So that was part of what we talked about. Also, we had a minor win that we found out when I was down there, that the fire fees you will not see those bills coming in the mail, the second installment. They have been delayed indefinitely. They've just not been postponed. Part of it was because of what we asked you to do was to file for an appeal, and they have not been able to even come close to processing those appeals. I think is what you're going to see is the legislature is going to have to act on figuring a way to turn those into fees or taxes that is more palatable, and probably reapportion the way those fees are collected differently rather than imposing them mainly on the rural counties. So good work there. And we also talked about lots of other different legislation, and I think I see that some of them are going to be on later on in our agenda, so I'll just hold off on that rather than giving you the litany of everything we talked about. Had a CSAC board meeting. We did a call-in on this one. It was regarding the Affordable Care Act policy, how to proceed in further negotiations with the governor. The governor wants to have the counties absorb most of the costs, or at least take over some of the child care from the potential savings, and the policies that we have show that, and it was unanimous that the counties want the state option, that we want the state to go ahead and handle the administration and whatnot, rather than having 58 separate ways to deal with the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. And then aside from that, I also, every Monday I have an officers call with the State Association of Supervisors, keeping up to date with different legislation and things that implement, whether it's with AB 109. We still have not set the base rate for that. It won't be set for a while, but making the case, and the sheriff's been cooperative in this, how it impacts rural counties, and specifically, since I get to sit at the table, how it affects Del Norte County. So we get to actually be the model for some of those rural counties in the allocations. And there are going to be billions of dollars. I think it's getting ramped up from $780 million up to close to $1 billion this coming year. Also attended the child abuse prevention flag raising at the fairgrounds, and I have my button on, and I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit later. One of the more important things that I did attend, acknowledging the great work done by the Child Abuse Prevention Council and all the different partners, from First Five to the council members to CASA, to everybody that works, foster parents, everybody that works towards protecting our children. And had an airport JPA meeting where things are moving along nicely. It seems that there's some confusion. Nobody knows who the good guys are. And while they're fighting on the left and the right, we're going right down the middle, and hopefully we'll have our permits in June if things stay according to schedule. So all good news there. One thing I would ask for in the future, Jay, I believe I sent forward an idea that came out of Contra Costa County, that on all our agenda items there's a check-off, whether it is for county council, whether it's for CAO, whether it has the financing implications. They have one that is in tune with one of our goals, which is the safe and healthy families, ensuring safe and healthy families, and also along the lines of the year of the child, and everything that we do should be focusing on how does it impact the children. Well, they actually have a sign-off that says, you know, how does this affect the children? Does the money go towards this? What is the measurable outcome? And it's a nice way, because I see things on our agenda that sometimes get debated that there shouldn't be a debate over, perhaps, if there was more clarity as to how this aligned with our goals and how it affected the children. So I would ask for that. And then along the lines, I would be remiss if I didn't say something about it. You know, even in an election month, I have a hard time getting 4 letters to the editor or 5 letters to the editor about me in a positive way or a negative way. Yet, there was obviously a very calculated effort, orchestrated effort, to admonish me for not being at the Lead-In Awards. I was at RCRC, and as you just heard from me, there was a lot of good stuff that was done there, and it was important that I be there for the county. I defend in the Constitution a person's right to the First Amendment, one of the ones we didn't vote on separately, that free speech and freedom of the press. I would ask that people, whether it's Christopherson or Turk or Countess or whoever the other ones are that wrote in, that at least ask, at least check before you admonish somebody, especially public officials, on some sort of agenda. Ask where we were, and just like I'm not going to write a letter to the editor asking where somebody might have been regarding the child abuse prevention flag waving. It's priorities, and we all do a good job, and I want to thank my fellow constituents for being at work, even if you weren't at the Lead-In Awards. That's it.
All right, thank you.
And just as an anecdote, every year I go to those awards. I have been a presenter, and I have been a recipient, and I'm in the audience. I support their work.
All right, Supervisor McClure.
Yes, thank you. I missed the last meeting because I was luckily in Arizona visiting my son and having a vacation that I haven't had in a number of years, and glad to say that I was able to see 4 baseball games in 3 days and the Grand Canyon. So I apologize for missing, but it was a family thing, and my kids are doing great. But in the interim, the senior board met, and we had our general membership meeting and reappointed the board. And so everything is moving forward there, and we're still in negotiations with the state as to how our reimbursement will work, and things are moving in a positive fashion and moving forward. The Redwood Parks Association, we met, and I was extremely disappointed that the California State and National Redwood Park are choosing to close the Hiuchi Visitor Center this summer because of sequestration. I argued heavily that that not be the case. There's about 44,000 visitors stop at that visitor center a year. And we're trying to figure out some kind of plan that we could possibly keep it open, even if that means that the Redwood Park Association would actually staff it and run it, because it's such a vital component to our community. It's one of the gateway stops where people stop and decide that they're going to go on some trails, decide they're going to go to the beach, decide they're going to stay and have, some time in our restaurants and possibly spend the night for a couple of days. So it's a huge impact, I believe, to our community. And I'm not giving up on it yet, but currently that is the plan, that visitors center will remain closed this summer, which even means that the restroom is closed, that there's going to be a gate put up where you can't even pull off and get in. So it's, I'm not happy with that, and I'm planning on trying to meet with the new superintendent to talk about other alternatives. They're also going to close a couple of different roads. One of the roads is to the Tall Trees Grove, which is about 12,000 visitors a year use that road to get to the Tall Trees Grove, and that is very disappointing. I argued that it appeared to be that it was an attempt to make us feel the pain of the sequestration, and that I found that to be inappropriate. I was not successful in my arguments with the administration at this point, but I'm not giving up. I also was able to have a great Easter with my family. The Democratic Central Committee met, and a group of us are on our way to Sacramento this weekend for the state convention. And I also would like to comment on the Lead-In Awards, that I was not given an invitation to the Lead-In Awards. In fact, I verified that with the sheriff today, and he said, oh yeah, on the way out the door to do the awards, we realized that we hadn't given you an invitation. And I find that this coordinated kind of attack it's just insulting, because for years I have always attended every one of the award ceremonies, and so for me to find this kind of attack that I must have been off doing something else it's disappointing, because I know that there is a huge group of people in our community that support the Board of Supervisors, support our diversity, and understand the complicated and hard issues that we face, and that we work together, and that to try to be this divisive of us is it's extremely unfortunate, and it seems to be very coordinated.
Thank you. Supervisor Hemmingson.
Yes, thank you. I had a pretty light couple of weeks. I got opportunity to go to dinner with Senator Nielsen, who was here for a few days, along with law enforcement, the harbor, and the city, where we got to kind of vent at him a little bit, let him know what our issues were. Each entity, from the prison, highway patrol, sheriff was there. Jay was out of town, but Neil did an excellent job in getting forth the issues that affect the county. Scott Feller, of course, was there, and also Ron Phillips from the harbor, and Rick Hawley, and Eugene Palazzo from the city. So anyway, it was very interesting. He was very interested in our issues and problems. So we look forward to working with Senator Nielsen. Also was asked to accompany a group out to the Pacific Shores area, which is my district. The senator wanted to see Pacific Shores, so we went out there and went clear out to the breach site. Had a good meeting with him out there. As Supervisor Finnegan said, we had a Border Coast Regional Airport Authority meeting. I won't go into that. And I attended the Emergency Board of Supervisors meeting, and that was about it for me.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Gitlin.
Thank you, Chair Sullivan. Well, immediately after the March 26th meeting, this Board of Supervisors meeting, I met with Commander Tim Athey of the Del Norte Sheriff's Department and Code Enforcement Officer Dave Mason at the eastern edge of the Walmart parking lot. That's just directly north of Washington Boulevard right there. I'm sure you're aware, you've seen the paper, of the terrible litter problems and behind the trees and shrubs. It's disgusting, it's vile. Hypodermic needles, empty whiskey bottles, raw sewage. The trash is just incredibly unbelievable. And this blight is on county property. So I'm asking the board at this time, Chair Sullivan, to direct CDD to determine the actual cost to clean up this mess, and landscape and cut back the trees and foliage to block those that are offending in that area. And Walmart has generously offered to donate the necessary dumpsters to clean up this mess. This should be about a 2 to 3 day job. I'm told, and Commander Athey has already been in touch with CAL FIRE to get Alder Camp crews into the area. It just amazes me how quickly an area can become blighted, yet working to clear the area is a process which is painfully slow. So I hope we can streamline that process and get this area clean and secure. And while on the subject of Walmart, our local store announced it was donating $1,500 to the Take a Bite Out of Blight program to 501c3 partners Jordan Recovery and our Daily Bread Ministries to commence assisting the elderly and the disabled homeowners in Del Norte County to remove eyesore debris and blight about the front of their properties. We hope to commence this non-government outreach May 1st. So I want to thank Walmart Store 1910 and General Manager Nick Gonella. Same afternoon, I attended Solid Waste Management Board meeting, and in the coming days we'll have some announcements to the community on that. Early Wednesday morning, March 27th, I attended the Sea Cruise Car Show. It's scheduled for October 11th and 12th. This will be the 22nd annual Sea Cruise Car Show, sponsored by the Chamber and the Northern Nights Car Show folks. I'm helping to secure some great raffle prizes, and which will center on old classic cars and hot rods. So keep your calendars open. The weekend is October 11th and 12th. Saturday, March 30th, I joined State Senator Jim Nielsen and his staff for breakfast at the Chart Room. Senator Nielsen and I spoke about the fight to retain the high-quality medical services at Sutter Coast and the dilemma facing our other lighthouse, that being the St. George Reef Lighthouse, which regrettably has been cut off from any kind of transportation issues by the Caltrans Aeronautical Department. We're going to work with Senator Nelson to see if we can fix this problem and get the helicopters going back and forth, bringing tourists out there in the 2+ decades that they've been doing it, 3+ decades actually, and make sure this proud lady, 3.5 miles out into the ocean, is kept in pristine condition. After that, I invited Senator Nielsen to our annual Passover Seder, hosted by Temple Beth Shalom, and it was held at the Coast Guard Auxiliary on the harbor, and we thank Senator Nielsen for attending that. Kind of a last-minute schedule change for him. Monday, April 1st, I observed the Crescent City Council meeting. Thursday, April 4th, I attended a luncheon at the Lighthouse Inn for Republican Women Federated. The group passed the hat and chipped in $54 to the Take a Bite Out of Blight program for the partners of Our Daily Bread Ministries and Jordan Recovery Group. Thank you very much, ladies of Republican Women Federated. Also learned just recently, last day or so, the Redwood Coast Transit Authority and that Caltrans was able to secure additional bus stop shelters at zero cost, both to the city and the county. The county is receiving 6 shelters, and with the order which will be placed today, because time is of the essence, by the Transit Authority, that number of shelters will increase to 12. The only cost will be the installation of the community will be receiving these new bus shelters, which will be in June. The only cost will be the installation, and I'm understanding that Redwood Coast Transit has budget to reimburse the county for that. So I appreciate that. And as far as the Leading Awards are concerned, I too was not invited. I learned about it on Monday night. It was a priority, so I attended, and I'm proud I did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, following the last board meeting, I attended the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority meeting. After that, I attended the tri-agency meeting. Last week, we had a financial goals meeting, the proactive financial goals meeting in regards to setting up, and you probably read about in the paper today, the internal financing we've got some vehicles at the Sheriff's Office we have to replace, and it is a cost savings to the county to be able to do it internally versus going out to a finance company, and it's on the agenda today. The attended agenda review, made a presentation last Friday. I want to thank Eli Naffa and the Boge, and I forget Boge's last name, but he's the Peace Corps recruiter from San Francisco that came up, and we did a presentation at College of the Redwoods to spark some local interest in the Peace Corps, and I had served from 94 to 96 in Paraguay, so it was pretty good to revisit those memories on that. A great experience. Attended the emergency board meeting we had last Friday regarding the district attorney. Had a meeting with CDD and staff and roads staff also regarding priority roads within the county, and that will be coming up at a future board meeting also. Just because the way the budget is that we have to prioritize which roads. If there was money growing trees, we'd do every single road in the county, so we have to kind of prioritize what we have, and staff will be making a presentation in regards to that later on. On a lighter note, I had a chance to attend my son's assembly at Mary Peacock. He's the star reader for last month, so I was really proud of Blake. He did a great job. So, also, if there's no disagreement for the board, we'll give direction to staff to research the cleanup of the property. Supervisor Gitlin requested research the cost of the cleanup at the property next to Walmart and come back to the board with. We could check both of those out, absolutely. So, other than that, I would also, I would agreement with the other supervisors that weren't in attendance at the lead-in. It would be nice to get an invite this year, but that didn't happen since my brother did get an award at it. So, anyway, at this point, I am going to, we'll go on in the agenda, and we're up for Supervisor McClure. You had something else you wanted? Yeah.
I did, and And this is just a note for people of caution that I was at a meeting last night and there was a woman that her property is behind the DMV, which is part of the corridor between Safeway and the backcountry, so to speak. And they had 5 vehicles that were completely demolished, all the windows broken out, the seats stolen, the carpet, there was this handicap van for her daughter that was completely demolished, including even a fender, and a motorhome that was on the property that was completely demolished, and everything was stolen or completely, like I say, completely demolished. And it's property that's behind the DMV, which connects via the fairgrounds, via Safeway, and that whole kind of corridor in there. And she was extremely disappointed because she believes the people are still coming back. Her daughter was able to make a police report, but no one wanted to come and take photos of what had happened. She did take photos, but she was completely devastated on what she considered an attack of her personal behavior and her personal life and our community as a whole, that we're kind of under siege with that kind of outlaw group that seems to be running that part of the county. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to hear a brief report from our county administrative officer. Jay?
Well, over the last couple of weeks, I was fortunate to get a little time off also and spend some time over spring break with my family. And since Mike brought it up, my daughter was star rider at Mary Peacock's. We've been working on negotiation and prep for upcoming negotiations with employee associations, some various personnel issues. We have met with a contractor consultant to look into potential energy saving projects for multiple county buildings to see what we can do to not only deal with some deferred maintenance, but also energy savings that might also be cost effective. We may be coming back to the board relatively soon to go to the next level. So far at this point, it's been a preliminary analysis and a financial analysis to see if it's feasible. So far so good, but we'll be looking at the alternatives. I went to a North Coast CAO meeting with Assistant CAO Neil Lopez. 2 of the members of our North Coast CAO group, one is from Sonoma County. That's the suburban county that has a representative. Veronica, the CAO, is a representative on the AB 109 allocation committee. And Carmel out of Mendocino County, the CAO there, is for the rural counties. So it was nice to be able to talk to them and their staffs. And I say staffs because they have multiple people there that go for their ledge and budget and such. But there were some good issues that were discussed, and we're not alone up here. We do have people that are advocating for us when we get to some of these committees. And I believe we'll be hearing through CSAC what the Department of Finance will be doing regarding AB 109 and the Growth Fund, which are significant funding sources for Del Norte County at this point under realignment. Working on responses to agencies regarding different MOUs, some discussed today, and then the contract with the Del Norte Ambulance extension request, we're negotiating on that. And we'll leave it at that at this point.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we're going to go on to our first timed item, which is public comment. Members of the public may address the board on matters which are within the jurisdiction of the board. If you are addressing the board regarding a matter listed on the agenda, you may be asked to hold your comments until the board takes up that matter. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. And at this point, I'll open it up for public comment. Yeah. Come up to the board, Mr. Miles. Tony, can you make sure the mic's on that too, please?
I have 2 items I'd like to call to the attention of this board today. I hope everybody read the newspaper this morning. Del Norte County made a little history again. The first debris from Japan washed up on South Beach Sunday. I have a modest proposal that Cindy Henderson use that boat as a display here at the Flynn Center as part as her education tool for preparedness. It should not become scrap at the transfer station. I believe the county, I think the sheriff officer, because of international law of salvage, has the right to keep that boat. So it's a modest suggestion, and maybe Mr. Gitland, with his resources from Home Depot, could help offset the cost of cleaning and restoring the boat. I have another concern, because there's a large misunderstanding in this community. First Five is a separate organization from the Family Resource Board. I hate saying this, but a lot of times people go to the public trough and then they find themselves denied funding. Unfortunately, the Family Resource people lost their money from the state. I'm sorry to say, car washes will not keep the Family Resource Center afloat. I would hope this agency, because of the concept of the Year of the Child, would act as mediators. I think the Family Resource Board needs to be talking to the First Five Board to see if they're going to stay in existence and what their financial plans are. If they can't come up with a financial plan, I would hope the county would mediate with the First Five Board to find another nonprofit to step in to provide the services.
Richard, you need to wrap it up because your 3 minutes are up.
Well, Mr. Sullivan, this is important, and I believe the county needs to take some kind of action.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing no other public comment, we're going to go ahead and close public comment. We have a 10:30 timed item for Trindle, a presentation by Trindle Insurance Fund. Go ahead, David.
Good morning.
Morning.
Board of Supervisor and Chairman Sullivan. I'm happy to be here today to talk about Trindle and what I do. Can't think of anything better to do than talk about myself. But what I'd like to do is do a brief orientation of what Trindle is for your new supervisors, and a little bit of an update for the supervisors that have been sitting here for a number of years and are already acquainted with our organization. Okay. So Trindle Insurance Fund is a group of counties, a joint powers authority of 10 counties, shown on the graph there. It was established in 1980. It was established with two pioneering counties, one being Del Norte and the other one being Trinity County, who found themselves in an insurance crisis in the early 80s and decided to pool their resources to answer some of their problems they were having with securing insurance for their counties. it continues to be the best answer for rural counties today for insurance pooling. Trindle is a public entity, and it's also a joint powers authority. Trindle is an insurance pool, so we're pooling our resources to buy insurance. Our mission is to provide members with the most cost-effective risk financing mechanisms for selected property, casualty, workers' compensation, and liability coverages. Our goal is to manage these programs to ensure fiscal soundness, superior service, stability of cost, effective loss prevention, and educational programs to benefit and meet the public, the employees, and the county's needs. Our organizational chart looks similar to this, with the board of directors being at the top. Myself is under there. We have basically 3 divisions under us. One division that is liability property, and we use a contract for those services with George Hill's company. And then we have the loss prevention portion of that, where we have 2 individuals that visit each one of the 10-member counties to help them with their safety and loss prevention efforts. And then we have the workers' compensation claims handling division, where we have 3 adjusters that helps the employees when they're injured and navigate through that process to have the best result possible for the employee and the county. So why Trindle and what is unique about Trindle? There's 6 items here that I'd like to touch on. I could talk all day about it, but these I think are the major points that makes us different than any other insurance pool that's out there. We are basically comprised of rural counties. We're member-driven. We're a banking arrangement. We're the best risk financing scenarios in rural counties. We have outstanding loss prevention program and superior claims handling. I'll talk about each one of those. But first, we're all rural county members, and that's an advantage to our members. As Mr. Finnegan was talking earlier, the funding resources that come down to your county is unique as a rural county versus a larger county. And as what Jay was talking about, AB 109, the way that impacts your county with more sophisticated criminals being housed here in your county, and you having to deal with that is different than an LA county or a larger county having to deal with the same problem. They have the facilities ready for that. We have different challenges as rural counties, so there is a synergy of having a group of like entities to deal with these issues with, increased exposures and problems with different inmates in your county. The other thing that helps us out is we have similar demographics. Typically our rural counties have a center, and then we're spread out amongst many miles, and not similar to other larger counties who have city centers throughout their county. That is something that is unique to us. And we also have similar claims venues, which works in our advantage. When claims do get to the court level, hearing them up in the northern part of the state, our outcomes are typically better than a similar case that would be heard in Southern California. Our counties are not viewed as being as big a pocket and financially sound as some of the larger counties, and it just tends to have the judges up here have a little more, compassion for public entities because of the situation you guys find yourselves in. And so you can see the map there of where our counties are located. So I travel quite a bit. I'm in each one of these counties pretty often, as well as our safety people and workers' comp folks. We are member driven. This is a slide just to show you when we have a board meeting, each county has a vote in that board meeting. A lot of the other JPAs are made up of 5-member boards, or from people from the community or different interests. And our organization, what has made it successful is that each member county has a vote on the board, and we sit down, we discuss all the items, and everybody gets to speak and direct this organization that best fits our rural counties. The third item is the banking arrangement, which is unique for Trindle. Essentially, in insurance pooling, JPAs, typically the word pooling means you are putting money into a pot and you're sharing the risk with all the other members that are in that pool. Trindle does not work that way. We're a banking arrangement. The funds that are sent to our organization through premiums are your own funds. They're not commingled with anybody else. You don't share the risk of any other entity. You pay the claims out of that specific premium that you have. And that is very unique. So each one of the insurance policies that you have, we keep a running balance on what we've paid out and what we've brought in, and that's reconciled, on a monthly basis. Trindle itself has no assets. We have no cash balance. We are just an extension of each one of the agency that participates. This county, I know it's really small and difficult to read, but I put it up there just for demonstration. These are, each one of those columns or boxes that you see up there represents one of the policies that we carry to help cover any exposure that you may have. So each one of those represents a policy that we have in place. The different shadings represent different levels of insurance. And what I mean by that, when I talked about risk financing scenarios, this is what I mean by that. The bottom layer on these boxes represents your deductible. The next layer up represents an SIR level, or money that you have in deposit with us to cover claims. The next lighter level above that is a pooling layer at our excess insurance JPA, CSAC EIA, and then the top layer is actually excess insurance, so it's just an insurance policy. So what I do each year is I go around and get quotes for all these different layers and make sure that we move it around so you get the best price for what coverage that you need. And it's an exhaustive process, but it's worth its time in moving these things around to make sure that everything is as cost effective as possible. And they may change from time to time. Our next item, the fifth item, is our loss prevention program. I believe we have probably the most proactive loss prevention program of any insurance JPA or county that handles these things themselves. We are on the forefront of every aspect of our loss prevention program, and we bring that to each one of our members. As you can see, this slide demonstrates an instruction for a forklift out in the snow. I believe that was up in Modoc County. But we do similar trainings everywhere, a hands-on type training. The picture on the right demonstrates a classroom training, which we do in every one of your counties as well, developing your supervisors and leaders of the county. So we're making smart decisions and educated decisions as in regards to exposures and risks. I'll keep it up with my slides. Superior claims handling. This is an area that we just recently took on. For 1 year now, we've been handling the workers' comp claims within Trindle organization. Prior to that, we hired that out through a third-party contract. The members of Trindle thought there was efficiencies and dollars to be saved by doing this in-house and having our own people handle these. And to deal with our own employees, and it is working out very well, and it's been a very good decision of the board to do that. This is basically a process of workers' comp claims with timely reporting, 3-point contracts, directing medical care as quickly as possible, doing claims reviews with the county, return to work programs, keep people healthy and interested in being at work, and claim resolution. This is a format that we follow pretty strictly to make sure everything's done correctly. And we also handle claims on the liability side, which we do through a contract with George Hill's company. And Roger Hayden is our adjuster who's with me today to handle those. And as we've been with them for, I believe, 13 or 14 years now, I'm very happy with that arrangement, and it's worked out very well. So to recap, Trindle is a public JPA, Joint Powers Authority. We're comprised of rural counties. We're member-driven. Each county has a say in what we do. It's a banking arrangement, not a pool, so your risk is your own. You're not sharing that. We do the best risk financing scenarios. We do the analysis to make sure whether we ought to self-insure more because insurance costs more this year, or we self-insure less because insurance is actually a good deal this year. We do that evaluation to make sure we're doing the best thing for you. I talked about our loss prevention program and our new claims handling department. And that's kind of Trindle in a nutshell. I know it's fast, I went through it. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to entertain those. I did bring some data along with me, just for interest's sake. If we have time, we can go over that. I don't know how I'm doing on time.
I think you got a couple more minutes.
Okay. This is a graph of all of our counties and how a 10-year total of what they've paid on workers' comp claims over the last 10 years. So you can look at the graph and you can see how Del Norte compares with our other members. Keep in mind that all our members are not the same size. Alpine County is significantly smaller than Del Norte County. So what I did in the next graph is I took the number of employees and I divided it by the losses in those 10 years. So what you come up with is a cost per employee, and then I divide it by 10 so you got a cost per employee per year. And you can see Del Norte County is doing okay, but there's obviously room for improvement. Colusa County has been our hero in this area for a number of years. They've been with Trindle a long time. They buy in to and are the champions of our loss prevention program. And they've changed the culture in that county to say no job is worth doing unless it's done safely. And it has a serious impact on the bottom line dollars that allows you to spend that on other things. The next slide is on the tort claim process, and here's all our counties and what they've spent over the last 10 years in tort claims costs. It's a lot of money. You start looking at these dollars, so it's something we take very seriously. And again, what I did here you have a question?
Can you tell me do we have a specific department in our tort claims here that's more impacted, or is this across the county?
This is across the county. Obviously, there's probably more departments that have had more claims than others. Administration gets claims just because they are, the point of contact. You also have other departments that are more prone to that because they're more interactive with the public, the sheriff's department, stuff of that nature. So you get claims out of that area as well. But this is county-wide. So with these totals here on the tort claim, you can see Del Norte County is up with our other members that are similar size, Lassen County and San Benito County. And so, for that size, you're in the same area. You can see Sierra County is quite small county and actually has had some pretty bad experience as well. So there's a lot of variables that go into this, but this kind of gives you a comparative analysis of where you sit. And so I did the same thing with the tort claim side. I divided by number of employees, and you can see Del Norte County is right in line with where they ought to be, and Sierra turns out to be a champion in this one. They have very, very few employees, so it really shows their bad experience. So would you have any questions? Or
Any questions from supervisors? Yes, Supervisor Gitlin.
First, David, I want to commend you for an excellent presentation and bringing it to the board's attention, the public's attention of the nature of this issue, and also recognize the importance of what you do. I guess what I'm looking at here and what I want to determine is this a growing industry problem? this workman's compensation and prevention, loss prevention, is the matter getting worse? Because what's at stake here is whether the county can do its business. Can we expand our code enforcement department? Can we add sheriff's deputies? This is all general fund money, is that correct?
Not all general fund monies, no. It's proportionate. Your premiums are paid out of basically all the departments. They share the risk that they've incurred over the last few years is a component of the premium that they pay.
Now, the dynamic of this problem, is it worsening, in your opinion?
I believe that in general speaking, in the state of California as a whole, it is ramping up a little bit. There is, as cost and inflation goes up, we tend to see more claims, and the dollars are getting larger. I'm happy to say that, because of our loss prevention program, Trindle members have not seen that same increase. Your premiums have been pretty much consistent, if not lowered over the last 5 years. And it's because, in some of these programs, we pool all of us to get a rate, and because of our size, our rate, and we're, as a group, our experience is better as California as a whole. So we have an advantage there that we use that to get at lower premiums. So as a group, we're actually doing very well. Statewide, yes, I believe that is correct. But it's going to take some more vigilant exercise in our loss prevention program to stay on top of this. It can slip very quickly, and it takes years and years to turn a ship that's not going the right direction.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from supervisors? All right. Thank you. Thanks, David. Okay, we're going to go on to our next timed item. It's 10:45, number 18 on the agenda, U.S. Forest Service presentation. Ranger Mary Kay Van Devere.
So, I would like to, a little bit lower, I'm not quite as tall as he was.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting us here today. I do have our fuels planner here, Sheila Ballant, and Julie Ranieri, our forest public information officer, and they may pop up and help out if you have any questions. So what I thought I'd do first is just go through this PowerPoint, and then if you have any questions, just feel free to interject at any time. So each year, the Six Rivers National Forest puts together a program of work, and that program of work is a forest program of work. And this year, on the National Recreation Area, the major projects that we have going are the travel management, and we're also continuing to complete the Gordon Hill Fuels and Vegetation Management Project. Trinity Summit and Sims are a forest-wide project, and we also have staff on the National Recreation Area that are assisting with that. We have been working for a while to work to get some environmental assessment done to upgrade our administrative facility, so that's also on our program. And we're also working on the lands and minerals and special use projects. And we have 3 projects, major projects, that deal with Pacific Core Power Line, the Charter Communications, and the communications tower there on the toll road. And we'll continue to work with Del Norte County on some of our RAC projects, and those are listed there. There's several this year. And, a couple years ago, some of those are from far back as 2010. And so we're continuing to work to implement those.
Mary Kay, I had talked to our roads superintendent yesterday, and he had
Yes.
mentioned that one of the projects got pulled, the Low Divide project, rock project.
At this point, there has been some reductions into what we thought we were going to get in the way of as you're well aware, you probably have more information than I do at this time, but no decisions have been made at this point, and so we'll learn more as we move through this reduction and what we thought we were going to get through the month of August. So we're just going to specifically go through some of the projects that we're working on right now, and the historic warehouse renovations and the award process we went through this last fall, Coast to Crest, our recreation program, fisheries, wildlife, fire suppression and prevention programs, and last, our fuels and vegetation management program. We had the opportunity for probably for the last 6 or 7 years, more than that, we've worked to get our historic warehouse renovated. And this last, in late and early winter, the Six Rivers was awarded with one of the 11 state historic preservation awards for the state of California, and we were fortunate. We all went down there and met with everybody and received that award, and it was it was a long time that we worked on this project to move it forward, so we're pretty proud about that. And we had a lot of folks on the forest help with that project. Keep getting this messed up here. Must be the last slide. There we go. Sorry. And this, of course, is the continuation that we've been working on over the years of the historic South Kelsey Trail, and we're merging it in the future. It'll be part of the Coast to Crest. And in the last 2 years, we were able to put in that over a mile accessible trail that'll link it in, and eventually it's supposed to be linked in that will go all the way to the base of Mount Ashland. So this will be a great project. As funding allows us, we'll move forward with this, and we have partnerships with Rose Foundation, Del Norte County, the U.S. Forest Service, and the state of California. So we continue with our recreation program. We have more than 10 river access sites that we manage, 5 developed campgrounds. We've got day use areas. Over the last 10 years, I've seen an increase in our outfitter and guides by about 50%. So we've been working at that over the years. We continue to manage 300 miles of wild and scenic river length and 75 miles of hiking trails, 30 miles currently of motorized trails, and the Siskiyou Wilderness. We continue with our fisheries program, which includes educational opportunities here in Del Norte County, and every year we have stream surveys and fish surveys. So we're just moving forward and monitoring the fall Chinook populations. Our wildlife program is enhanced by monitoring we've been monitoring over the years at Big Flat. We have set up these bat boxes that we monitor for the breeding season. We've also partnered with our neotropical birds surveys with the Pacific Southwest Research Station there. We have been monitoring the Humboldt martin, and also we continue with our surveys. We're in 3rd year of the northern spotted owls with our surveys on Gordon Hill, the current vegetation project we're working on. And we also work We have ongoing habitat restoration projects at Big Flat and at Coon Mountain Meadow Restoration. This has been the first project really that we put out, and it was based on our community protection program, or our community protection plan that we put out in 2005. And we continue to implement the projects within this project. This year we will continue to log the 408 acres of commercial thinning. And this is just an example, just the early treatments and some of the treatments that we were able to do with the Big Flat project. Coon Mountain Restoration is a Jeffrey Pine grassland restoration project. We continue to work to do the underburns in that area to restore habitat. It's been, each year we continue to do that, and it's been very successful for big game and also for the Martin skipper butterfly. Here's just some pictures of our crew out there underburning. We also have been working in partnership with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in monitoring the Martin skipper, which is a federal candidate species, and that species is found in 2 meadow areas on the National Recreation Area. You know, this picture was taken this last summer with our fire crew, and our fire suppression program has grown over the years. We have 2 engine modules, 1 water tender, 3 fire prevention patrols, and then 1 20-person interagency hotshot crew. And as you know, last summer we had quite a fire season, and so I know I spent quite a bit of time on fire last summer. Our engine modules and our water tenders, our 1 water tender, they work on all sorts of the projects on our forest and on our district. And some of their duties are wildfire, traffic and response to traffic accidents, medical aids. They deal with hazmat incidents, structure fires, vehicle fires, off fire engine assignments, all sorts of stuff. They also help out with the fuels reduction projects, the recreation efforts on our district, and recruiting. They do fire prevention and education and fire suppression training. Each year, you know, we're active with our school programs. We make presentations to 1,600 children in Del Norte County each year. And we also are present at the fair, and we're in the field doing investigations, making public contacts. Our national interagency hotshot crew, the Smith River Hotshots, we listed out the fires that, you know, they went on last summer. And we're really proud of those folks. They respond nationally to incidents, and they're also, we utilize them accomplishing our fuels targets in the field. So it's been just outstanding. It took us a few years to build up to that level of expertise, but they're an elite group that travel throughout the United States in response to interagency needs. And we're really fortunate to have them stationed there in Gasky. As I mentioned before, we worked in 2005 to develop the Del Norte County Fire Safe Council's Community Wildlife Protection Plan. And these projects that we're talking about today have been based on that plan in protection of our community and to work and restore the forest and to put together a strategic plan, just following those areas to make sure that our community is protected. These are some of the actions that we continue to work on. The Big Flat Veg and Fuels Management Project. It's 735 acres of fuels reduction, and there's 3 different subdivisions with that project within the Big Flat area. And we've also got the Elk Camp fuel break. That one is located on the northeast of town of Gasky. We've continued to work on the Hyuchi Mountain fuel break that borders the private land there in Hyuchi. And this is one of the first ones we started on, and that was the Gasky Community Protection Project. So we have 6 different fuel breaks that surround that community. Coon Mountain Meadow Restoration, as I mentioned before, that's also boundaries the Rock Creek interface, wildland interface there. And this one we recently got the planning done for is Upload Divide. It's Station 3 fuel break. So we're moving forward with our plan for Del Norte County. This is just some pictures of the Big Flat timber sale and its implementation, which continues.
What's the board fee supposed to be on that project?
That one has been around 4 million board feet.
4 million board feet?
Yeah,
Okay.
around that. And the one thing I wanted to just emphasize is that by doing these timber sales, it does provide, for public firewood, all these folks. And just recently, we worked at, I know I've had quite a bit of involvement with this along with Julie Ranieri, but we wanted to provide that ability for people to fall snags along our roadways, and we've been able to do that. And that's made quite a difference, I think, in the available firewood to the public, and that's something that I've been working on for a little while. So I was glad to see that we were able to do that and make a change. Certainly, we've had lots of folks come forward and say thank you for doing that. So that's a good thing. This is our next project. And this one, Mike, I just want to say we're going to be treating about twice as much for the commercial thinning portion of this one. And it'll be very similar, and this one will tie in. It's the same type of treatment. It includes, fuel treatments. It includes restoration of Jeffrey Pine grassland, again, sugar pine restoration, and also commercial thinning. And then the timber stand improvements are done on our younger stands so that we can kind of get some variable density, some treatments in there before the trees get too old. So that's what we're doing there. And whoops, hit the wrong side again. And you can see, just if you look at this picture, it's kind of all tying in together, and that's the intent strategically with these fuel breaks and our timber program. So that's all we have today. Any questions?
Question from board members.
Yeah, I got it.
Supervisor Henningsen.
Yeah, thank you. The timber sale that's going on now in Big Flat, is that an actual sale? That's not like a service contract or a
It is a sale, Jerry. We were fortunate enough to be able to do that at that time. In fact, at that time, that was the only timber sale that sold on the Six Rivers. So we were really fortunate, and it's by weight scale.
And you say that's about 4 million board feet?
It is. It was estimated anywhere that it would have been between like 3 and 4, and I think it's come out a little bit higher than they thought it would.
And how much longer is that going to go on?
It'll go on, I think, through this year, but it's going to really be dependent on what we've got going on with the federal highways projects that are on the South Fork. So they could delay it another year. It just depends what the bridge replacements and stuff we've got going on.
And then the other project that you've got coming up, how many board feet?
We don't have an estimate on that, but it is twice the acreage. That's all I can really say on that, Jerry.
But you don't know if it's twice the board footage?
It's similar, it's very similar. So you're going to have, we're going to work to get all the treatments done eventually on that.
And you're working on that as a timber sale also?
There's a timber sale component to that, you bet.
Okay. What do you mean component? I mean just part of that?
It is, it's part of it.
Now the other projects that you had listed there, I can't name them all, but Coon Mountain and the other ones, are those out on contract also? Are those?
We do a combination of force account, which is we utilize our interagency hotshot crude and engines to do a lot of the implementation, and we also do contracts.
Okay. And some of those are under contract?
We have done some of that work contract, yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks, I appreciate it. The only other thing I would like to say is, I'd really like to see an update, of what's going on, maybe pick a specific project on what you're going. It doesn't have to be a long presentation like this one, but I'd like to see you here once a month or every other month at least.
Well, it doesn't change that rapidly, but what I will say this is if we have some information that's new to update you on, I'll be here, okay? Can't say I'm heading into fire season, I may be gone, but.
Well, I would just like to have a little firmer schedule than that is all.
Well, let's talk about that, Jerry. Give me a call and we'll arrange that. Thank you.
Question, Supervisor McClure.
Mary Kay.
Mary Kay.
I'm sorry.
This is a bit outside your purview as far as forest management, but I'm concerned with the illegal marijuana grows that are dewatering our creeks and are using the rat poison and killing our small rodents to the point that they're on the endangered species list now because of these illegal grows. Have you witnessed an increase in sophisticated grows in our backcountry, or what's your take on what's happening here?
In general, on the Six Rivers, we have seen an increase. In general, on the national recreation area, in my tenure here, I have seen an increase, but it's not as large an increase as that I've seen in other parts of the national forest.
And do they appear to be cartel related, or are they getting bigger, these gardens, and are we able to get support, state, local, and national support to eradicate?
I can't tell you about the size. I can tell you what we've experienced, more towards the southern end of the forest, and we do work with an interagency force to eradicate these plantations, and a lot of times we know some parts of it, but we don't know all of it, and so because it's kind of held under wraps. So I don't have all the information, but I do know that we have different safety procedures that we're put into place for the public and for employees that are working in the forest, in some parts of the forest. I know when I was up working on the Shasta Trinity last summer, around on the Stafford fire, I was amazed. My eyes were this wide open, because, you know, during that time period, I did deal as the administrator there with the cartel in that county as we were trying to move forward our firefighting efforts. So I've seen an increase. It's not, I don't think we have it quite as bad here in Del Norte County, but it's out there for sure.
Supervisor Finnegan.
Well, following up on that, what are you doing about it? I know what you're doing when somebody's not permitted to ride on one of your roads. What are you doing if they're out there with a major grow?
Well, you know, actually, I'm not law enforcement, so I think the thing that you need to, if you
You're
need
the
an
land
answer to
manager.
that, David, I think you should be talking to the law enforcement agencies here locally, how they're working with our law enforcement agents here.
So you, as the land manager, don't take any responsibility?
I'm not, I don't supervise the law enforcement, no, sir. Thank you.
Any other, Supervisor Gitlin?
Mary Kay, nice to meet you. I haven't met you before.
Nice to meet you, Roger.
You know, in a short period of time, we're going to be taking up support of AB 350. You are familiar with the Wachowski-Bigelow Assembly Bill. It's about culling down the forest, preventing fires, and allowing the stumps to be a little wider. This, unfortunately, is only for state lands. What's going on with the fire prevention efforts on the federal level? Are we behind schedule? You know, again, it's not if, it's when we have a fire, and how can we prevent that?
You know, Roger, we've been working very hard here, and I think you should be very fortunate to have put together early on and had the funding, the fire funding, to put together that Del Norte County fire plan. And based on that, we're moving forward with these community protection projects that will make our forest and private lands, we're building these fuel breaks, widening out. You know, as we know, it's a steep and brushy district. There's a lot of really good work that we've been doing, and we're fortunate to have the workforce in our fire department here to implement a lot of this. And on our forests, I've seen reductions in the money that we do get over the years to do fuels. This year, I think we looked at about a 12 to 13% decrease, but I can tell you this, having a workforce with our interagency hotshot crew out there doing the work, being able, at this point, this is our third planning effort, and plus we're doing smaller NEPA documents. We're trying to get ahead of the curve so we can get more and more into implementation.
Well, you know, it's just not the boards of supervisors across these forest areas. Air quality is very concerned. I spoke
Yes,
with
they
the
are.
North Coast Air Quality Unified District, and they're very concerned. That's not if, it's when the fire comes, and then, of course, our air is fouled and what have you. So I just wanted to stress the importance of it and the vital, and I think you share that with me. So
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, we'll open it for public comment. Thank you, Mary Kay. Yeah. And you need to come up to the
Why
mic.
don't you
Yeah.
come up and I'll...
Okay, thanks for the presentation. I would agree with Supervisor Hemmingson. It would nice to see on a regular basis, whether it's quarterly or trimester-wise.
I own a home at Big Flat and also an apartment in
And you
town.
might just...
I own a home in
No, but
Big-
you might say your name.
Oh, Ann Steven,
Okay.
S-T-E-V-E-N. I'd like to know where these 3 subdivision areas at Big Flat. Does the Forest Service know? I'm curious. Yes, I'm curious.
When we built this
Wait, Mary Kay, we need you in the mic.
You need to
Just-
get-
And it's more for the audience that's not here. It's the folks watching on TV.
Okay,
So you need to be in the mic.
Would
And
you
if you-
like me to, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Can you go back to a map, Mary Kay, or something, and show her?
yeah, that's okay. There's 3 divisions within the Big Flat project. That's what I meant by that. And they're,
Just the area.
Yeah, it was a terminology that I think I confused you, okay? All right, so when we built that project, we built it into 3 different segments, okay? And to provide community protection, to provide for timber stand improvement, and, okay, so I hope that answers your
Yes,
question.
it
Okay.
Regarding the marijuana, this is the time of the year they go by my house all day long. It's planting time. And then after that, during the summer, I see quite a few rigs go by, pickups. Some are covered, some aren't, so you can't tell. But they go up and stay a couple hours, and then they come back, and there's no wood in the back of their pickups. And this has been going on for over 50 years. Thank you,
Thanks,
Mr.
Sam.
Sullivan.
Okay, any other questions, public comment? Okay, we are going to take a 3-minute recess here, and we will be with the Green Diamond presentation right after. We're going to call the meeting back into order, and we had a timed item, number 19 in the agenda. It was 11 o'clock presentation by Green Diamond, and an update presentation, Green Diamond Resource Company. And Mr. Ewald, Vice President, General Manager, I'll let you take it from there.
Well, great. Members of the board, Chairman Sullivan, thank you for having us here. I should say thank you for the invitation, and a bit of chagrin for me for not having been here sooner. But it is an important time in our history of our company. Some big changes are happening, and we can look back at some things that weren't so pleasant. But I think we're at, I'm hopeful, a bit of a turning point. So if I can work this technology here. What I'd like to do is give you a sense of where we've been over the last few years and where we're headed, and then again save much of what I up here for questions. So I'm a forester by trade, and so what I'd like to do is spend most of the time talking about maps. And so this is a map of our California ownership, but a history behind that. Our company was created in 1890 by a fellow named Saul Simpson, who moved to the Puget Sound area with horses and beat the fellow's login with oxen. So we've been trying to be competitive that way for our whole career. But we end up with about 300,000 acres in the Olympia area, west of Olympia in Washington State, and about 400,000 acres here in California. This was assembled, ironically, in the first acquisition in 1948 in the Klamath area. So our first ownership started here in Del Norte County. And speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about how we manage these lands. Focusing on the north end of the property, this is about half of our ownership. About 190,000 acres is in what we call our Klamath operation. And that operation is, we'll see in a moment here, some trees that are a bit younger than the rest of our property, and so it faced a different future when we ended up with the recession at our doorstep. As you all know, in 2008, our business, along with everyone else who was making lumber, faced a steep decline in markets. And it wasn't just the fact that we had reduced demand. We had a big supply of logs and lumber ready to go to that demand. So when we took production offline, we had a lot of making up to do. And unfortunately, our Klamath operation was the furthest from the market with some of the youngest trees. So the impact for us and the impact for the community here was a big reduction in our production. In fact, in 2009, our production was only about 2 million feet, which was, I think, the lowest in the history of our company in our Klamath operation. Since then, we buoyed it up some, but we're still off 75% from the heyday when we were producing 40 million feet on a sustained level. If we take a closer look at, there we go, at Del Norte County, we do have some changes coming our way. Most of those are personnel changes here I'd like to talk about in Del Norte County. Our Del Norte lands are about half of our Klamath operation. They're about 90,000 acres in size. And we had some recent retirements. I'd like to introduce you to some of the people that are replacing the people who retired. Andy Ellsbury is the fellow that replaced Robert Miller, who was our operations manager. Robert had 44 years with the company, so we expect a lot out of Andy.
Good luck.
Yeah. And replacing Roy Holloway, who just retired here at the end of the year, is John Davis. Roy, I think, also had a 35-year career with the company. So sometimes our employees are older than the trees that we harvest, which is good for us. So let's move on to what's germane for Del Norte County. And what I wanted to do is talk to you about things that I thought would be of interest to you. And mostly those are things that would drive economic interest for the county. So let me give you some statistics here. As I said, prior to our malaise in the marketplace, we were harvesting about 40 million feet a year. We had a company logging crew, one of the few company employees. Most people use contractors for logging, but we had the crew here that was working at that 40 million foot clip. There's an economy of scale with a logging operation. If you don't have a certain amount of production, you can't keep a crew like that going. And so when we hit this tough spot in the economy, we laid the crew off in 2009. But we, looking forward, we look to this coming year of about 17 million feet of production, again, up from the last few. And over the next 5 years, we hope to double that to about 30 million. And over the preceding 10 years out from now, we're hoping to get that to 70 million feet. Now that's largely based on the age of the trees. They're getting older. As you can see here on this map, these are the age classes of the even age management forest that we have. And if I were to have been here 10 years ago, you'd see that those trees would have been a lot more red and a lot more blue. So the good news is, if you don't cut trees, they get a little older. And so that's supporting the increase in harvest we have going forward over the next decade or so. But that also translates to employment. Our employees right now we have about 35 employees that are both internal employees and contract folks that work on the property. That'll boost to 90 going forward in the next 5 years, and then again into 140. And then maybe something that's even more germane to Del Norte County is the share of yield tax that comes from that harvesting, and we did a little calculation and some estimates going forward. Again, this is not for the whole Klamath property, but just for the pieces that are in Del Norte. We had a meager $70,000 tax bill, I think, here over the last year or so. We see that going to $90,000 and to ultimately to about $450,000 at the end of this second decade as we get out to our sustainable harvest levels. So that's the good news for us. We hope that we can sustain this place in the marketplace, and we've done some things in our business to make that so. Just this last year, in fact, in February of this year, we became certified by the Forest Stewardship Council. It's one of the most greenest of green third-party certification organizations. So that's good for us, and we think with us and the rest of the Redwood region, we can present a green alternative that's sustainable to the marketplace, and try to keep those people who came in with plastic boards out of our market. So that's good for us. The other, I think, piece of news that's relevant to you is the notion that we are selling some land, and as you know, it's our business to stay in the redwood business, and so we're trying to sell lands that don't grow redwood. Have a little at the Oregon Tunnel that's for sale, and then most notably land that's part of the UROC transaction. We have, I think, 24,000 acres remaining to sell to the UROCs, and about 6,500 is in Del Norte County. So that transaction is still in play, and we're hopeful that it can be concluded here in the next few years, but I can't give you much more than hope at the moment. So with that, I would like to answer questions. I didn't want to spend a lot of time belaboring what you might already know, and I was hopeful that you would let me tell you what you don't know.
Any questions for Supervisors? Supervisor Gitlin.
Neil, thanks for coming up and making your presentation. I always love to hear about employment.
Yeah.
And I see your numbers are pointing, the arrows pointing in the right direction, so great. It's going from, you're currently 35 to 90 to 140. How does that impact Del Norte County? What kind of jobs can we expect?
Well, that's a good question. You know, in the past, we had company employees that rode the Crummy, we called it, from Humboldt County, and many of our employees came from the Humboldt Bay area. Since we've moved now to contract capacity, a lot more of those people, I think, will be local residents. We can't say for sure because we don't know who these people are, but we have seen an influx of the contractors we have now. Many of them are Del Norte County residents.
Excellent. Any other questions? Supervisor Hemmingson.
Yeah, the number of board feet that you were talking about, how many in Del Norte County? How many of those?
That's a good question. About half. I have an expert, a shill in the audience, who tells me he developed the numbers, but I can't memorize them all. So.
That's okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Supervisors? Supervisor McClure.
I would like to ask the same question that I asked the Forest Service in relationship to the cartels and the marijuana gardens. Are you seeing an increase? I'm really concerned about the dewatering of the creeks for the salmon and the rat poison that's being used that's killing off all the critters.
Right, and so the answer clearly is yes. In fact, I will brag about a really bad thing. We had the largest marijuana garden on our property ever in the state of California in 2007. 135,000 plants worth $450 million. Took the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department 5 days to eradicate it. Now that was, we believe, a cartel grow, and we do see the impacts of dewatering. We're not trying to be law enforcement officers, and we're not trying to stop people from growing marijuana. We're just trying to make our property safe. So we put helicopters in the air and locate these gardens as best we can every year, and then tell the Sheriff's Department where they are, just to put this sort of bubble of protection over our employees when they go to work in the morning.
Supervisor Finnegan.
Yeah, welcome, Neil. Welcome.
Thank you.
I learned from my old days of working for Simpson to never turn a blind eye to a good rumor.
Oh, great.
What can you tell us about the future of Simpson or Green Diamond in California?
Yeah.
as far as perhaps sales to the Chinese or getting out of California?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine a rumor that you haven't heard in the last few years, or the last few months anyway. Our company's been struggling like many others. To give you a sense of that, you could put all of the redwood lumber demand in the state through one sawmill. And so we're divvying that up across, the whole region of the state. And so it's a very difficult marketplace, and one of the things we've done to try to figure out how to survive is have all our logs tested through our mill to figure out which of those logs are best suited for our sawmill and which might be used in others. So after we tested our mill, the only way you can test another mill is to send your logs there. And of course, that's pretty open and notorious that we've done that. We've sent logs to South Coast, to our competitors at Schmidbauer, at Sierra Pacific, and so on. And so what we're trying to do is figure out if they can do a better job than we can, and the results are in. The answer is no, they can't. But we had to test that presumption to see if everyone's running their mill on one shift. Everyone should be running their mill on two. And so to the extent that we can find ways to manufacture more efficiently, we want to look at that. My boss, one of the owners of the company, met with our employees here last week and claimed that we're going to make a run at our mill. We're going to try to keep it running. And these are tough times, and we want to make sure that we've done everything we can to make our own facilities run, and that's a better face to the marketplace than having someone else make lumber out of your logs. And so that's our commitment.
Along that line, you got an old abandoned mill site down in Klamath,
Right.
and as the majority of the grow starts shifting towards Del Norte County, what's the possibility of getting? I know you got a great quad mill down in Corbell.
Yeah.
But what's the possibility of having a camp mill or a small log mill or a redwood sawmill in Klamath again?
Well, there aren't any plans for that, but that is an old industrial site, and it does have lots of flat space, and it was, as you pointed out, a sawmill at one time. If you look at the map, just to the center, the left center of where the red spot there is, that's the Klamath Fire of 1988. That's the Klamath area, so you can see there's a lot of our land arrayed around that site. So, as I said, there are no plans, but having industrial sites that are ready to be developed is an important thing. And, we have a sawmill. The good news, our sawmill has survived a long, long time. The bad news, our sawmill is well over 100 years old. And it's been rebuilt many times, but perhaps we could look at a different location for sawmilling. Let's not start another rumor here today.
Well, I like that rumor, Dean.
Yeah, but certainly we, as you know, just moving logs to South Coast was something we tried to do to see if we could get things manufactured more locally and not move our logs hither and yon on the 100-mile stretch of our property.
Any other questions, supervisors? Neil, I want to thank you for coming up. This all kind of started under the same rumor thing. We wanted to make sure that we're keeping Green Diamond in Del Norte County going forward. And I appreciate your responsiveness as well as members of your company as well. And one thing you didn't mention, which I think local Del Norte folks would like to hear, is you just hired a local basically to work for Green Diamond.
Yes, Chad Freeman, yes, a fellow just recently hired as a forester in our Klamath office. He'll be actually working in Oryx, so don't hold that against him, but he'll be spending much of his time in the places where I wore out my knees here in Klamath. So.
Excellent. Well, that's great news. As always, any employment in Del Norte County is a positive thing, and we appreciate you guys being here and appreciate the update as well.
Great. Well, thank you. And I'd like to invite you two at a time into the woods. I know anything more than that, everyone gets in trouble, but we would like to get you out and show what we do, perhaps this summer or next. And I didn't introduce Ruth Ann Schulte, she's our public affairs officer, so I will give her the task of contacting each of you and see if we can put something together.
Great.
Even a half a day is a lot of fun.
Yep. Excellent.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. So at this point, I will entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda. So moved. Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment on items on the consent agenda only? Bernadette?
I think it's still morning, almost
Is this
afternoon.
the child abuse?
Yes.
I'll
Is
tell
that
you what,
okay?
actually, we'll
Wait.
pass the resolution first, and then I'll come back to you, so you can do your
Okay.
brief presentation. So I didn't think there was going to be that many in the public comment period, so. Okay, so any other public comments on the consent agenda items? Okay, so Tony, I'll bring it back to the board. Tony, could you please poll the vote?
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes, I need to recuse myself on item 2.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor McClure?
Yes.
Supervisor Finnegan?
Yes.
Chair Sullivan?
Yes, I need to recuse myself. I'll abstain from number 2 and number 11. Okay, and in that consent agenda is a resolution proclaiming April 2013 as Child Abuse Prevention Month, Children's Opportunities, Our Responsibilities, as requested by Director of Health and Human Services. And Supervisor Hemmingson has the resolution, so I'll go ahead and let him read that.
I'm neither a star writer or a star reader, but I will stumble my way through this one. This is a resolution of the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors proclaiming April 2013 as Child Abuse Prevention Month. The County Board of Supervisors recognizes that every moment a child's life is in an opportunity to learn, and the quality of these experiences may determine whether a child succeeds in school and in life, and that all children need caring and loving adults in their lives. And whereas we acknowledge that our children are the greatest resource and that all our future will be determined by their innovative talents, ideas, and leadership, and whereas the role of the community is to accept the responsibility of ensuring that every child experiences a quality early environment at home, at childcare, at school, and in the community that will promote the best possible development. And whereas Del Norte County has numerous committed agencies, organizations, parents, relatives, community volunteers, public policymakers, and professionals who are collaborating to reduce and eliminate child abuse in the county, who give children hope, security, and safety. And whereas all communities have the responsibility to offer parents the education, support, and skills needed to provide healthy, safe, and nurturing homes for their children. And whereas the activities of this month will provide an opportunity to acknowledge youth and early care and education programs and their dedicated staff, and to raise the awareness of the community, employees, and elected officials of the need to improve the quality, availability, and accessibility of such programs. And now therefore be it resolved that the County of Del Norte proclaims April 2013 as Child Abuse Prevention Month. In so proclaiming, County of Del Norte officials, employees, and residents are encouraged to join the important efforts of the Del Norte County Child Abuse Prevention Council, First Five of Del Norte Children and Families Commission, Del Norte Child Care Council, Del Norte County Juvenile Court, CASA of Del Norte County Health and Human Services, Del Norte County Unified School District, licensed foster care providers, and many other public and private agencies and individuals serving and advocating for children and youth in Del Norte County. Together we can prevent child abuse and neglect and build healthy, safe, and strong families and communities. Children do well when their parents do well, and families do better when they live in supportive communities. Passed and adopted this 9th day of April 2013.
Okay, ladies.
All right, thank you. So good afternoon, my name is Bernadette Johnson, and I am the Executive Director at Klamath River Early College and also the Chair for the CAPC. And we just wanted to take a quick couple minutes to share with you some of the things that we do throughout the year. One of those things is the annual flag raising ceremony and candlelight vigil. And this has been going on for over 10 years, but in the last 2 years we made a couple changes. And one of those was to have the candlelight vigil on April 1st, regardless of what day that happens to fall, and believe that people who care about children will make the time to come out. We also added a special ceremony that focuses on honoring the past, being aware of the present, and hoping for the future with regard to the health and welfare of our children. So thank you, Dave Finnegan, for joining us, and we hope that next year all of you will be able to make it on April 1st. We also want to thank the fairgrounds. This year was a new place for us to raise the flag, and they generously donated that space, and our flag is flying at the fairgrounds with the children on it. So if we could show quickly, this is maybe 1 minute of a few pictures of that, and then I'd like other ladies here to share a few other things with you. Thank you.
Is there a speaker or? It's going to be. Oh, okay.
So I guess I can share a little bit about the pictures as they're going. So we had donations of coffee and cookies. We have some candles that go out on a table there, and the Sea Cadets raise the flag, and we do a moment of silence, and we have a little speech that we give, and the whole thing lasts maybe 20 minutes to a half an hour, but it's beautiful. We've stood there in the rain before with everyone holds a candle as well, and it's just a really special moment to think about the children who have suffered at child abuse, but also really to think about the brightness of our future. And it's a heartfelt moment.
And you might notice that on the flag there's 5 children, and the middle is one that's not colored in, and that's the one that represents a child that's been abused. We have some blue ribbons throughout the community that people are donating $1 towards child abuse prevention. And I just want to add, as part of child abuse prevention, we have the Week of the Young Child that's coming up this next week. And it's April 14th through the 20th. This follows from the National Association for the Education of Young Children. The purpose of the Week of the Young Child is to focus public attention on the needs of young children and their families, and to recognize the early childhood programs and services that meet those needs. It is a time to recognize that children's opportunities are our responsibility, and to recommit ourselves to ensuring that each and every child experiences the type of early environment at home, at childcare, at school, and in the community, and that they will promote early learning. And our theme is also, how are the children? And we're going to have story hour all next week, Monday through Friday on KCRE.
Excellent.
Bring it my size. The last thing we have in April that Child Abuse Prevention also helps with is the Youth and Family Fair. And this is my 10th year being involved in the Youth and Family Fair. We too have adopted that our theme is How is the Children. We're very proud to say that David Finnegan is going to be our welcome speaker. And we'll have free roller skating, petting zoo, the Wonder Bus. We have been working on this event since January. I have a wonderful committee behind me. And we are also going to partner this year with the Earth Day Festival. This is the first time this will happen. So it's a wonderful family event. I hope all of you will be there. I know David will. So come out on the 20th from 11 to 2.
Thank you.
Say one more thing is that a part of the Family Assistance Network, we have the Above and Beyond Award, someone that's nominated and voted on as an outstanding community member that's gone beyond their job duty, and it's Linda Tabor that works for the county. That was
excellent.
Yes. Oh, Friday Night Live. Yeah. Thanks.
One more thing. CAPC also meets the first Tuesday of every month at the Family Resource Center from 12 to 1. And this meeting has been going on for a long time and is open to anyone who is interested in learning more or contributing to the efforts around child abuse prevention. And I just wanted to just say one thing, that, child abuse is a sobering thing, and when we hear that phrase, we often, get a pit in our stomach, and we have this terrible feeling. But I really want to, I have my pin here, it only takes a moment to make a difference in the life of a child, and remind us that prevention is about what we do now and what we do tomorrow. And every time you interact with a child, you can make a difference in their lives, whether you have children of your own, or neighbors, or children in your schools, or in the community. So we do want to recognize the sober nature of the issue, but also not allow that to make us become paralyzed and fearful of discussing it or talking about it, because everything we do positive for kids is contributing to prevention for child abuse, and also for families. Parents need a lot of support and love. So That includes, when you're standing in the grocery line and there's a crying baby, how you respond to that parent. So I just empower you to take a moment. I know that you already do. And if you want to join us from 12 to 1 on the first Tuesday of the month, we're right over there at the Family Resource Center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we do appreciate the work you do, so keep up the good work.
Yep.
And we'll see David doing the face painting, I'm sure, at the...
Just as long as it's not the roller skates while you're face painting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this point to accept budget transfers.
So moved.
So is that a motion to accept item 13, 14, 15 in the agenda, item 03-01, 03-02, and 03-03?
Second.
Okay, is that right? Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Okay. It's been moved and, moved and seconded. Any public comment on public transfers or budget transfers? Okay, seeing no public comment, I will bring back to the board. Tony, could you please pull the vote?
Supervisor McClure?
Yes.
Supervisor Finnegan?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Chair Sullivan?
Yes. And on item 20, I've had a request to table that item, so we won't be addressing that item in this meeting. Going on to item 21, approve the Del Norte County Medical Mental Health Care Managed Plan Agreement with the California Department of Health Care Service, and authorize the Department of Health and Human Services Director to sign associated required documents as they relate to this contract for the period May 1st, 2013 through April 30th, 2018, not to exceed $9,126,795 as requested by Director of Health and Human Services. Gary.
Great. Okay. This is actually our standard agreement that we have with the state. It used to be the State Department of Mental Health. Now it's the State Department of Healthcare Services. But the content of the agreement is essentially the same. It provides essentially our opportunity to draw down the federal dollars. So that's what you see in this agreement over a 5-year period. It's about $1.8 million a year in federal dollars that we draw down with our realignment dollars. So we have our local realignment dollars that sit in our fund, and then as we provide services, we can bill up to the 1.8 or the 9.1 million over 5 years. That number can change over the years depending on the rates that are set by the state. So that you might see amendments, undoubtedly, I'm sure you will, as the years go by, but at least this cuts down on some of the bureaucracy. Instead of coming to you every year with a new budget, new approvals, we can get a lot done by just having this once every 5 years, because essentially things just don't change that much. I thought you might like to know that currently on the average we're serving about 645 clients in our children and adult services, and we provide approximately 2,500 services a month, or about 30,000 services a year. That's everything from an outpatient counseling session to a hospitalization and everything in between. And we receive about 1,323 referrals a year.
And we are going to be getting a presentation over the next couple meetings.
Yes, we are.
believe, so.
Yeah, we'll be able to provide you with a little bit more detail about the programs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions, supervisors?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, Tony, could you please pull the vote?
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor McClure?
Yes.
Supervisor Finnegan?
Yes.
Chair Sullivan?
Yes. Okay, moving on to legislative and budget issues. Item 22, consider miscellaneous legislative and budget matters pertinent to the County of Del Norte. Authorize the chair to sign and send appropriate letters with respect to matters pending before the state or federal governments. Jay?
In the Board of Supervisors agendas, there are a list of proposed bills and legislation, and we've been monitoring along with our lobbyists and advocates, and we've been receiving requests for letters, which we'll get to in the next couple of items. But if there is anything specific to any of the legislation that the board would like to bring forward at some point, please get a hold of me. We'll prepare draft letters, or we'll bring it forward to the board for any consideration. The ones that have made requests and/or we are trying to address will be in the next two agenda items, and then the third one that was brought forward by Supervisor Hemmingson.
Okay. So we'll go on to the next items on the agenda. We are going to be in D.C. this week regarding advocating for the county regarding especially the Forest Service, secure rural schools, and some other items as well.
So we have a very full agenda. The itinerary has been updated, was brought in again today. We'll be meeting with legislators from both sides of the aisle, beginning with Congressman Huffman immediately Thursday morning, and then filled with meetings the entire day of Thursday and almost all of Friday. And hope to address a number of issues, secure schools and roads funding, issues with the sequester, the AES, for the airport in regards to subsidies, which has become a big issue. I received some information yesterday, and there is a concerted effort by tax advocates to put some pressure on the federal government regarding subsidies to the rural airports. And I think that's something that we need to review, address, and speak to each one of our legislators about, especially at the federal level.
Okay. And I think Congressman Lamalfa's in one of our visits too as well while we're back there.
Yes, he is.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to go on to item 23. Review, approve, and authorize chair to sign letter regarding support of AB 350, Forest Fire Prevention Act, as requested by Assemblyman Frank Bigelow, and Supervisor Gitlin also forwarded this to be put on the agenda. Jay, if you want to kind of take the lead.
Well, as you mentioned, this was forwarded by Supervisor Gitlin. It is a proposed bill that deals with expansion of the stump diameter that may be possible as far as part of fuels reduction programs, starting at about 28 inches with a maximum of 34 inches. It appears to be legislation that could have a significant benefit in the rural areas and give some expansion and some flexibility in regards to the fuel reduction projects that we might see.
And I believe, you know, at least three of us on, Supervisor Hemmingson, myself, and especially Supervisor Finnegan, have had a lot of interaction with Frank Bigelow when he was a county supervisor, and he is very pro-rural California, and real nice guy, and I know he actively is working to help small communities. So any questions from supervisors? Okay.
No, there was a lot of other supporting documentation and stuff that I'd forward you that's not in there, but it's available.
I'll entertain a motion then.
Move to approve.
Second. It's been moved and second. Any public comment? Okay, bring it back to the board. Any other comments? Tony, could you please pull the vote?
Supervisor McClure? Yes. Supervisor Finnegan?
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Chair Sullivan?
Yes. Going on to item 24, review and approve authorized chair to sign letter regarding support of AB 639 as requested by Peterson Consulting.
This came through our advocates as one of the bills that's out there. It's AB 639, titled Veterans Housing and Homeless Prevention Act. It's a bill that's been authored by John Perez, and he's asking for support. Its intention is to end homelessness as well as create jobs and fulfill voter intent is what he's put in here, but basically it's support of our veterans and many of the issues that surround our veterans that are returning back from war. So at this point he's asking for support, and the letter in the agenda outlines that.
Okay. Any questions from supervisors? No. I'll entertain a motion then.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved to second. Public comment? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Tony, could you please pull the vote?
Supervisor McClure?
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Finnegan?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Chair Sullivan?
Yes. Moving on to item 25 on the agenda, take action to oppose or support AB 203, Coastal Development Permits, and AB 976, California Coastal Act of 1976, as requested by Supervisor Hemmingson.
And I would like to be on the opposed side of these two bills. I didn't.
Could you give us for
Yeah.
the speakers a little background?
Bill 976 would not allow you to put in an application if you have a cease and desist order already on a project. It just appears to me that it's a way to, you know, as slow as it is going through Coastal Commission, it's just a way to slow things down further. They have their remedies that have been there for years and years, and I think you're taking the most powerful agency on the coast of California and making it even more powerful. And I just can't go along with it. The other bill, AB 203, authorizes the Coastal Commission to do administrative citations and also be able to lien your property and eventually maybe take that property. So both of these bills I don't think are necessary, and they're, like I say, it appears as though they're just trying to make a powerful agency more powerful.
Any questions? Yeah, Supervisor Gitlin.
I completely concur with Supervisor Hemmingson. This is another impediment, another nail in the coffin, and it's an agency that is just out of control, and this is one more deed which would forward that, so I would oppose this.
Yeah, and you know, just to add on to it, the only way that you could be, I think, in favor of these two bills if you were totally anti-development of anything. I mean, it's just putting unnecessary things out there, I think. So.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
Well, I think what concerned me about the one, Stone used to be a supervisor from Santa Cruz County, and now he's on the Coastal Commission. He's always...
No, he was on the Coastal Commission, now he's in the municipal.
Okay. Correct. And he's the one that authored that. What bothers me about it, and what's always bothered me about some of these agencies, and most particularly regarding this with the Coastal Commission, is there's always a separation of powers. But that's not so with the Coastal Commission. With the new legislation, it's not only they have the right to make the rules, they have the right to enforce the rules, and then they have the right to rule on the rules if there's an appeal. And that's just not the way the government's supposed to be set up. And I certainly can't support something that would allow that to continue to happen, or actually to expand on.
Yeah, and
there needs to be an appeal process that doesn't go through the Coastal Commission.
Yeah, and it all goes down to one person, the executive director, who gets to make the decision.
Supervisor McClure.
I'm going to
I
weigh
think
in
you
on
should.
this and make sure that I have my county supervisor hat on, because I believe that the Enforcement Division of Coastal Commission is extremely understaffed, yet at the same time have a very powerful role to play. And I agree with David that the necessary of a separation of powers is a requirement when penalties are assessed. And I also think that this kind of bill doesn't do anything for, I mean, it excludes local government, but local government is the voice of the constituents who live in that local government. And this seems to try to mute that voice. So I too would not, I don't know if our voice will be heard, but
Rarely is.
I think that there's enough middle ground in the Coastal Act that this probably doesn't need to be applied.
Okay, great. Any public comment? Or wait, do we have a motion? I don't know if we have a motion yet. I'll entertain a motion to send letters opposing both bills.
I'll introduce that motion to oppose 976 and 203.
I would second that.
Okay, it's been second. Any moved and second? Any public comment? Okay, seeing no public comment, bring it back to the board. Tony, could you please pull the vote?
Supervisor Finnegan?
The motion was negative.
To oppose, yeah.
To oppose, so it would be an
Motion.
affirmative vote of yes.
Supervisor McClure?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin?
That'd be yes.
Chair Sullivan?
Yes. Okay, at this point, we are going to adjourn back into closed session. Sheriff Wilson.
I'm sorry that you pulled number 20. I was going to make a comment, but I do want to say this. I want to apologize for myself and for the oversight for us getting out the invitations to Leiden. It's normally done It was not done this year. That's the fault of my office, and therefore I'm going to take responsibility for that. The criticism to the board members, the ones that weren't there and the ones that were there, and to Jay Serena, is unwarranted. You know, the commitment that you have shown in your tenure as members of the board has been unwavering in the support not only of public safety, of the sheriff's office, but more importantly to the personnel that work there. And that's what Leiden is about. It's about the personnel that work there. And I know that your commitment towards them, your support of them, and your concern for them is never in doubt. So I wish to thank you for always being there, supporting them, and making sure that their concerns and their importance to the service of the community is always paramount in your eyes, and I know it is. And for that, as my part of it, I'm sorry for the oversight. The other thing is, yes, we work with our partners in the county, with U.S. Forest Service. We get money from the U.S. Forest Service. We get money from State Forest to eradicate marijuana. We work in conjunction with our partners at Blue Diamond, Green Diamond, Blue Diamond, because they have personnel, foresters in the area out there, and they give us intel and information. The other issue for this year is a HIDA, or a special federal district, is being formed between Trinity, Humboldt, Mendocino, and Del Norte. This is the first time that a special HIDA district has been created. There's 3 in the county, now there are 3 in the state, now there's 4. And this is a special HIDA district. Because of that, we are looking at getting additional resources this year being dedicated not only to that district, but in particular Del Norte County. So we're hoping that that'll give us more blade time, which is critical to get into the areas that we go in for eradication as well as observation during this period of time. So for that end, and yes, it is a problem that we have. We do have cartel gardens in this area. We used to have a lot more Asian gardens. We had predominant Asian. Now, unfortunately for Trinity County, they have moved down there, and they have huge Asian gardens and grows down there. But we do have cartel members. We have eradicated several cartel gardens last year. Majority of them were cartel gardens. And so we do have them here. They do use and engage in destruction of the environment within the area, as well as diversion of water resources, creeks, streams, and other mechanisms of damming up water in order to pool it into certain areas. So the damage that they do to the community, the damage that they do to the environment on public lands is what we are focused in on. We don't do a lot of eradication efforts outside of that. I mean, we do, but our focus with the dollars that we're given from the U.S. Forest Service is really focusing on public lands.
Right.
Have you, not only the cartel, the Mexican cartels, but what about Russian cartels? Have you noticed that?
Not in our community, but yes, in other communities in Humboldt County, they have a European, Eastern European focus on some of the grows being done. But what we're seeing primarily with some of these grows is they're not going into the outdoor as much as they're going into the commercial indoor growing operations, and because they can get several seasons, several grow cycles out of a single residence or a commercial grow. They can get 3 to 4 cycles and produce enough that it makes it, and the risk is lower because they often hide behind the 215 cards or certifications. But we're seeing a lot more of that kind of Eastern European, Russian mafia, Asian indoor growing cartels as operations as opposed to the outdoor grows.
I appreciate you addressing that. I just, she's not here to defend herself, but it just seemed almost flippant on the part of the Forest Service to say it's not our job. I know that's paraphrasing, so I'm glad to hear there's more coordination from your point of view going on.
Understand. One of the biggest problems with forest and forest management, especially in our areas, is the dollars. They just don't have the personnel on the ground. And that's just, it's been the way it is. And in order to still do what they want to do, they come forward with dollars to pay for local law enforcement in order to go do what they don't have the law enforcement personnel to do in these vast areas that are under their control. So the dollars are there, and the dollars have been increasing each year, primarily this year a little bit down, about $5,000 down in one of the pots of money that they give us. But we're looking at the HIDA this year as being a big boost to our marijuana eradication efforts in the public lands.
And I did see it on Facebook, by the way.
I have to agree with Supervisor Finnegan, though. They seem to have the personnel to catch you on an OHV riding on a county road, but they don't have the personnel to get out there and catch a marijuana grow. So.
Yeah, we appreciate your comments, and Supervisor Hemmingson and I had an opportunity about 6 months ago to get a presentation of some of the stuff going on with the special task force that you have, and they're doing some good things. It's the general public isn't aware of everything, so.
I know Roger wrote out some of the FIU. You're all invited at any time if you want the same presentation.
And the FIU, just for everyone else's clarification, Felonies Investigation Unit, which I wasn't aware what the acronym stood for until we were there, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Good stuff.
All right, we're adjourned into closed session at this point.